Never regret the things you've done in life. Regret the things you didn't do when you had the chance. Alana Thompson. The cheerleading days, the highlight of my daughter's Megan's life. She had cheered for a total of 8 years, all starting from the minor league cheerleading for football up to JV and varsity, and competitively too. She was both JV and varsity captain all throughout high school. She had the closest group of best friends that anyone would be jealous of. They got into trouble together, had fun together, and trusted each other with everything. And then it hit her all at once, a sudden dizzy feeling and short blackout with no noise. It only lasted for a second, but it was dangerous enough to almost kill her best friend, who was up in a full out stunt. Came down as soon as she blacked out. She then went to her doctor and had her first MRI revealing a glioblastoma.
Today I'd like to talk about glioblastomas.
What is a glioblastoma?
Well, to put it in perspective, about 18,000 new primary brain tumors are diagnosed in the United States every year. About half of those are glial tumors. These are tumors that arise from star-shaped cells in the brain and spinal cord called astrocytes. About half of those are glioblastomas. All glial-based nerve tumors, so all tumors from the brain and spinal cord that come from these types of cells are malignant, but they're graded in terms of low to high grade malignancy on a scale of 1 to 4. 1 being the least invasive or least aggressive, and 4 being the most invasive, the most threatening, the most aggressive. Glioblastoma is a grade 4 tumor.
Now, how do they present?
Well, they can present with any of the signs associated with pressure or occasionally sudden hemorrhage within the brain. So signs of pressure would be things like headache, sometimes visual loss or blurring, weakness on one side or the other of the arms or legs. Sometimes it'll be something that happens much more suddenly, such as a seizure or even a loss of consciousness. These are all reasons to see a doctor.
And how are they diagnosed and treated?
Well, luckily they show up very well on non-invasive imaging studies. So typically the fastest test in the event of emergency like a seizure would be a CAT scan. But usually in order to see more details, an MRI with and then without the intravenous injection of contrast is done. That's how they're diagnosed. And then we're still not certain when we see an MRI, even though it may be very characteristic of these kind of very problematic tumors. We're still not sure until a biopsy or tumor resection or tumor removal has been done. So that's the treatment phase. These operations are always done by neurosurgeons, and they are usually done in such a way as to try to remove as much of the tumor as possible.
Now, what is the prognosis for patients with a glioblastoma?
Well, unfortunately, these are one of the most dreaded of all of the malignant tumors. Currently, the 1-year survival for a tumor, a glioblastoma in the brain, is about 13%, and 2-year survival is about 2%. So it's very worrisome. However, there is some good news amidst all of this bad. The methods for treating tumors are getting much better. We are having some cases of earlier diagnosis, surgery with the technology we have available using microscopes, lasers, minimally invasive techniques. We can do surgery in a safer way in many cases. There's things like intraoperative MRIs, there's intraoperative placement of chemotherapeutic agents that can make a difference. Usually after surgery, when as much of the tumor as can safely be removed has been removed, radiation therapy is performed. Some of the novel therapies include a boost of radiation therapy, something called radiosurgery that may be helpful, and then finally chemotherapy. Now, all of the best treatments combined over the last 3 decades have only increased survival by about 3 months, but there's still some really optimistic things coming down the road. There are new chemotherapies using immunotherapy or developing the body's own immune system. There are new vaccines that have been used, and some of the vaccines have increased the survival rates by as long as 10 months, which is 300% of what we've done with any of our other techniques. So I think as discouraging and as truly worrisome as this diagnosis is, I think we're right on the cusp of being able to make a real difference. We need a little more time, we need a lot more work, we need more money to work on it, but we're getting there. So the bottom line is it's a very dangerous disease. There's treatment that is available, and that a neurosurgeon is needed to be your partner every step of the way.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is her first MRI of her actual tumor. Since it is in the center of her brainstem, it is inoperable. But it has not grown in 7 years, only spread. So she now has 4, but they are considering it non-cancerous. It has come with many side effects, and she has had to give up many things, including friends and unfortunately cheerleading. But today she is a motivated and strong person because of all of her hardships that came with the illness.